featuring the leading voice on one of today's top topics. It's a pleasure to welcome in Mr. Joe Crotty.
A friend here on Erie News Now at 7. Chief, thank you for coming in, sir. You know, I know you've been following closely what happened in Idaho yesterday. Sir, it just goes to show sort of that unpredictability that comes with the job of being a firefighter. You never quite know what you can encounter.
Absolutely. You know, the folks who work in public safety, whether it be fire, police, EMS, there is no set shift. You know, anything can occur. It's a little disturbing hearing, obviously, about what happened out in Idaho, and just a different world. You know, it didn't usually, or in years past, happen a lot in the fire service. You know, as we were talking a little bit earlier, you know, unfortunately, our brothers in blue, sometimes they have to interact with the public, and it's punitive and whatnot. But in the fire service, you know, we respond. We're there to help with hoses, EMS equipment, and solve people's worst day. You know, unfortunately, you know, this day and age of polarization, we've become a uniform, and symbolic of maybe a government that whoever the perpetrator may be, it didn't matter. It was just a uniform and symbolic of something they probably despised and didn't like.
Joe, earlier today I was talking to a 35-year veteran of the Erie City Fire Department. He's 87 now. He said when he first heard it, he wanted to go out there and help. What was your initial reaction when you saw this unfolding?
Again, it's shock. Again, because it doesn't happen. Not that certainly the potential's there in this day and age. It was just shock. I couldn't believe it happened, but then again, I'm reminded. I sat next to a group of firefighters from Webster, New York.
Right.
We were down at Emmitsburg for the annual Fallen Firefighter ceremonies. And, you know, back then, it was 2012, they responded to a fire. It came as a vehicle fire extending into a structure, and first couple of guys off the rig, there were 2 fatalities right there. It was a setup to ambush first responders. And again, you know, so 12 years later, we see it. And, you know, thinking just in the past year, you know, a medic in Kansas City was stabbed and killed on a call. And it's, you know, unfortunately, the unpredictability of the world we live in.
Chief, is there any sort of added layer of protection that firefighters may have to utilize going forward to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. You know, it's kind of tough given the nature of the business to engineer every bit of risk out. Now, obviously, you know, we have dispatch protocol. If there's any hint of any problems or instability on scene, you know, we'd stage out before, you know, the PD can stabilize or declare it a safe scene. You know, a lot of the bigger cities, as far as EMS, they wear bulletproof vests. You know, just dispatch protocol and policies and procedures, and, you know, some personal protective equipment. I certainly hope we're not at that point where we have to wear turnout gear and ballistic tactical gear underneath it.
Joe, we got about 30 seconds left. You've been on thousands of calls over many decades. Did it ever cross your mind that something like this could happen when you went out on a call?
I guess it's always in the back of your mind, but certainly not first and foremost. First and foremost is the mission. Doesn't happen a lot.
Well, Chief, thank you so much for coming in, sir.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it, and we'll have a lot more coming up with Lawrence Park Fire Chief Joe Crotty coming up tonight on Erie News Now at 11.